Hey guys, this is Lindsay and welcome to my very first YouTube tutorial. In this video, we will be doing a very beginner-friendly tumbler featuring only 2 products. Everything that you see will be listed and linked in the description box below, as well as a few discount codes. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you guys for joining me. If you're ready, let's go. So today I will be using a 24-ounce plump from the Steel Magnolia, and I'm going to take this 220 grit sandpaper and just scuff up the surface of my cup. This allows you to remove the shining surface that comes from the manufacturer, and I typically do this method for all of my tumblers. This is just the way I was taught. You can rinse this off at the sink using dish soap and water or rubbing alcohol and some paper towel. I'm going to give this 2 quick coats of this Lagoon Rust-Oleum spray paint and allow it to dry in front of my space heater. So while my cup is drying in front of a space heater, I am mixing up about 5 ml of the Flynn Sisters Premium Epoxy, and I'm only going to use about 1 milliliter of this. Allowing your cup to dry in front of a space heater and it's warm to touch when you get ready to apply your epoxy just makes it glide on like butter. Again, I'm only using about 1 milliliter of epoxy for this method. You want to make sure that you have a very thin amount of epoxy with no streaks present. You will be able to see them if you apply your glitter over streaks. Since I will be using an ultrafine cut of glitter today, I am just making sure that there are no streaks or lines in this epoxy. I got this technique from Brittany Barnes over at Brittany Barnes Boutique, where I'm just going to take my hand and pat it all over my tumbler, and this creates some texture so that there are no obvious streaks in the cup. The glitter that I'm using today is an ultrafine cut, and it's a very beautiful turquoise green, and the name of it is the Islands from 4K Glitter Company. I will make sure to leave it listed and linked down below in the description box, but you want to make sure you get your rim and your bottom covered, but we're just going to dive right in and get this entire cup covered with this glitter. Once we have completely covered our cup, I'm going to tap off the excess, and I'm going to let it sit to dry for about 3 to 4 hours since I did not use a fast set. After that, we will get ready to apply 2 coats of this same epoxy until it's smooth. With this ultra fine cut, you really don't have to apply 2 coats, but I always do just to be safe. And see, again, there's that beautiful glitter. So here we are with 2 layers of epoxy on this tumbler. I'm just going around with a 60 grit sanding block, and I'm just going to expose a thin line of stainless steel at the very top rim, so that our final layers will have something to adhere to. I typically do this after the second layer because with the first coat you could possibly sand down into your glitter and take the color off of it. So I always err on the side of caution and just wait until my second coat has cured and I go in. Now you don't want to wait too long because I find that the longer you wait, the harder it is to sand down and get that stainless steel exposed. So now that we are ready to begin the decal work for the tumbler, I'm just measuring around the full circumference of the tumbler because I will do a full floral wrap at the bottom, and then we'll just place a center decal on here as well. So I measured top to bottom and then all the way around. I think for this 24 ounce I used a 3.25 inch wide center decal, and then I made the floral wrap at the bottom about 3 inches tall. Now again, this is a very beginner friendly tumbler. We're only using 2 products in this tutorial, and you can make beautiful yet simple beginner friendly tumblers. So for the bottom floral portion, I did get this SVG from Fabrica. I'll have a link listed in the description box that will allow you to start a trial with them. You can download millions and millions of designs and fonts all for one low price every month, but that information will be listed down below. So I have already cut my decals using my Cameo Silhouette, and this is just a piece of matte white 651 Oracal. For the floral portion at the bottom, I ended up having to cut 2 decals because I did want it to go all the way around the bottom of my cup, and resizing and shaping to the dimensions that I measured was going to distort my image, so I just sized it down and cut it twice. I'm just going to get my images weeded and we will be ready to place them on the cup. This is one of my favorite tools in the tumbler world. This is from Tumbler Shields, and it's a cup cradle, and it's great for aligning your decals on the cup. In the words of the great Jessica Flynn, you always want to measure twice so you only have to cut once. And I'm going to be using the hinge method to apply my vinyl. Once I have my decal placed and I know it's straight, I'm going to remove the backing using the hinge method again, and I'm going to just take my felt side of my squeegee and I'm just going to smooth this down, make sure it's on, make sure it's not going to lift, burnish that down real good, and then I'm just going to remove the transfer. And I will say, this oversized squeegee has been a game changer. As I progress in my channel with more complex styles, we'll do some full vinyl wraps, and you'll see that this is a game changer for vinyl wraps and things like that. So now we'll be moving on to the floral wrap at the bottom, and I am not the greatest eyeballer of things, and I didn't want to place it down on the very bottom because sometimes the vinyl will lift when you are in the epoxy process. So I just put this piece of tape down to give me a guide so that my wrap would be straight. So again, we will be doing the hinge method for the vinyl application. I have one side of my transfer tape already anchored down. I'm just going to peel this back and cut this backing, and we will smooth it down. I'm going to lift up the other side, remove the backing entirely, and smooth that down as well using this oversized large squeegee tool. And I will have that tool listed down in the description box below as well. And I'm just going to speed right through applying this and getting it smoothed down and removing the transfer tape. So here's where I ran into a little bit of a snag, but it was no big deal because I was able to fix it with no problem. So I knew they were going to overlap because I did have to cut them twice, and to keep them proportioned, I knew they were going to be a little bit over. So I just simply put it on there, and I took my X-Acto knife and I just trimmed around one of the flowers to remove it so that it wouldn't look like it wasn't supposed to be there. And as you can see, I do have one flower left on my transfer. I was able to save that. I'm just going to get this all burnished down on there, and obviously I did not get it down good enough because it was lifting in some spots, so I was having to be extra careful not to rip it, but I was able to get it on there. And then I took this last flower and I plugged it right there in the gap so that it would look like it was one seamless piece. After I got my transfer removed, I just went through and did a once over to make sure that I didn't have any spots that were sticking up or lifting. And I removed this tape at the bottom, and we will get ready for the next step, smoothing it all down, and it's on there straight, and I'm happy with how it's coming out so far. After I've gotten all of my vinyl on and there are no bubbles or anything in it, I moved into this next step, which is sealing my vinyl. Now, I typically use CCDIY's Quick Coat, which is a water-based sealer. You can also use polyacrylic, the water-based version of polyacrylic, whichever you prefer. I just have always used the CCDIY, and you just want to take this and apply a very thin coat of this. It dries quick, and this just keeps your vinyl from lifting when the epoxy heats up. Being that this is a very thin SVG file, I always make sure to coat mine and it also helps with making your epoxy process a lot smoother. So I just take some and put it on my glove and just rub it all over my cup, making sure that I don't feel any parts sticking up, and allow this to dry for about 30 to 45 minutes before I move on to my next coats of epoxy. There you see me drop the cup once or twice. One part that I did not film was me using the tack cloth. My cup had been drying after I put the quick coat on for about 45 minutes, but it was hot and my husband was cutting grass and I had my door open on my shop. So I just used the tack cloth to make sure that there was no dust or debris on my cup. Now we're moving into the final coats of epoxy. On this cup I am using Flynn Sister Supply Shop Artist Cure resin, and it is by far the most user-friendly and the most beginner-friendly epoxy that I have ever tried. Again, use what works best for you and your budget and your climate, but I definitely do recommend this epoxy. This is the regular curing, not the fast set. Although she does have a fast set and it works great too. For me, my epoxy and my climate and with my humidity, it cures in about 6 to 8 hours in between each coat, with the fast set curing in about 2 hours. I will list her shop's name and website in my description box as well, and this is something that I would definitely recommend you try. Once I got this coat applied, I went in and let this cure for about 6 to 8 hours and went in with the second coat. Between each coat, I used my torch to pop any bubbles. As you can see, there really are none, and this is the final result. Again, this was a very beginner-friendly tutorial. If you like what you see, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like and follow. Ask me any questions in the comments, and thank you for watching. See you next time.